We'll be looking at the events unfolding in Akwa Ibom State. We'll be looking at events unfolding in Akwa Ibom State through the eyes of Otuekong Francis Isong, who is the chairman of the Civil Liberties Organization there. This is a human rights organization that keeps an eye out for what is happening in Akwa Ibom and finds ways to mediate and advocate for the people, advocate for better governance for the people of Akwa Ibom State. Today's discussion is by no means comprehensive. We're going to be touching on a few issues here and there, but next Saturday, I want all of you, especially Akwa Ibomites in the diaspora and Akwa Ibomites anywhere, especially back home in Nigeria, to come on this program and air your views, because we're going to go in depth next Saturday. But before I go too far, let me bring on Otuekong Francis Isong. Hopefully, I still have you in the studio. Mr. Franklin, can you hear me? What happened? Mr. Franklin, I've lost you. Otuekong Francis Isong is the chairman of Civil Liberties Organization, and he's going to be talking to us about what is happening in Akwa Ibom State. Akwa Ibom State is my hometown, and I don't really know what happens there. So my eyes and ears at home are really through Otuekong Francis Isong. Okay, so I am happy that he was able to take time out to join us. Somehow I think I lost him, but let me try to bring him back. Okay, so we want to talk about Akwa Ibom. What do we want to talk about in Akwa Ibom State? Okay, principally, before COVID hit, there was a lot of talk about the people not benefiting from the oil, from the proceeds of oil. I mean, they provide a large percentage of the oil in Nigeria, and they're supposed to be getting derivatives from the oil. Is this being used on the people or not? And if it's being used on the people, if it's being used to provide good services for the people, let us examine and see whether we have those services, those schools, those hospitals, and what have you. Franklin, I have you now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Adjust your audio. Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you.
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Adjust your audio because we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. So I'm going to hide you until we can adjust your audio and hear you, okay? Mr. Franklin, we couldn't hear you, so I had to take you off it, okay? Can you hear me now? I think you have yourself on mute, Mr. Franklin. Adjust your audio. Okay, so in the event we fail to be able to bring on Mr. Franklin, let me continue. So in the advertisement for this program, okay, we show the deep sea port, we show the airline, Akwa Ibom airline, we show the roads under construction, we showed pictures of schools, we showed pictures of hospitals, and we showed pictures of roads being constructed in the state. The moniker for the governor is the completion governor. Is it really? We want to examine that and see. Oh, I have Franklin in the studio. Can you hear me now? Mr. Franklin, can you hear me? Okay, great. So welcome back.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Nice to be with
the moniker for the governor is the completion governor, and we want to talk about how much completion has really been achieved in Akwa Ibom State. But when we're talking about this, let's bear in mind that Nigeria as a whole has generally been broke. There's been poor oil revenues coming in. So that means that whatever is being gotten for Akwa Ibom State is going to be affected also. And the economics, the general economics of the area will be affected. Franklin, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for being our eyes and ears in Akwa Ibom State. Whatever we're discussing today is going to be surface. All right?
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be with you. Happy New Year.
You're welcome. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And congratulations. You now have a son. Last time we
Yeah,
spoke, you had
thank
a
you.
daughter. Now you have a son.
Exactly. Thank you so
Wow.
much. It's the Lord's doing.
It's a lot doing and also lockdown doing, right?
Well, if you say so, it is
Okay.
well. Nice
Yes.
being with you.
Okay. All right. So you pointed out to me a few mistakes I made on my advertisement, right? We have
Yes.
31 local government areas in Akwa Ibom, not 36, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. What else did you point out? That it was not, I called it a different name. I called the seaport a different name. What is the correct name for the seaport? I think
Is Ibom deep seaport. What you
Ibom.
called was Ibaka Oron seaport,
Oh,
but
okay.
it is Ibom deep seaport.
Okay. Has it been built?
I think the it has to because seaport is under the exclusive legislative list of the federal government, and so you
Okay.
need the approval of the federal government to build a seaport. So what the
Mm,
state government had been doing from the time of from the time the project was initiated by the Urban Hotels Administration has been to pursue to get a license and approval from the federal government. And I
mhm,
think under the leadership of Governor Odu Emmanuel, the state has been given full license and approval by the Federal Executive Council to go ahead to build the deep sea port. And then the federal government also went ahead to release counterpart funding of over $2.5 billion for the project because it's going to be a federal government and the state government joint
mhm.
project. So I think we've got the approval from the federal government as well as the federal government releasing its counterpart funding for the project. So for me, the project from what we have seen, is going to be such that will create massive employment for the state. When I spoke with the commissioner for Ibom Deep Seaport and Economic Development, Mr. Kanokun, I think
Mhm.
he had a press he had a press conference this year, and I happened to be in that press conference, and he was talking about the achievement and what the project will bring to the state. From the commissioner, he said that, I'm quoting him now, that the project will create over 33,000 employment for the unemployed youth of the state. And of course, it's like hosting the world in Akwa Ibom. So it's going to be such that will make the entire state to become an industrial hub. Let me pause there.
Oh, okay. Yes, because my eyes were rolling already. Uh, we always have we always have these projections of massive employment coming for the young people of Akwa Ibom, but every time I pick up the phone and call people at the grassroots in Okanaphone, people at the grassroots in Uyo, they say, Auntie, send us something. I'll be on my neighbor. So where is the employment for the young people? Why is everybody still complaining? Why is everybody still poor? Most people are still poor, especially people at the grassroots. What is happening? So much oil, so many industrial projects, but people are still poor. Can you explain to me the disconnect? Because I've been on your page. I see that you really go around into the hinterlands. Talk to us about what is happening there.
Well, I think basically Akwa Ibom State is known to be a civil service state. Before now, we used to have projects like road constructions that create employment for the youth. You have interministerial projects that the state government will have to give through direct labor and will have to also give to people, party chieftain, who will also in turn employ the locals.
Mm-hmm.
What we have had lately is the fact that everybody wants to be in politics. Everybody wants to be in government, and you have a chain or retinum of appointees like PAs to PAs to PAs, and that is just what they want to be. You see people abandoning their farmlands, their agro product, and go to queue up in the house of a politician just to get 2,000. Is somebody leaving his farmland, leaving his industry like palm produce, and he would rather choose to go to stay in the house of the councillor or the house of a chairman to get 1,000 naira, because that money is just as easy as it can easily be given. So that for me could account to the reason why you have the Abionyeba statement. Otherwise, if people are encouraged to go into farming, to go
Mm-hmm.
into agriculture, to go into private sector driven economy, I
Yes.
think the Abionyeba statement will not be there. I am
Oh,
also happy that one of the key cardinal call it a slogan of
yeah.
the Udo Emmanuel government is Dakada. I want to think that if the people imbibe the Dakada culture, they will be able
Mm-hmm.
to fend for themselves and then abandon this idea of going to queue up in political party office, and then finally you will end up having 1,000 or 2,000, and then you will be used as a political tug at the end of the day, and then you go back home to say Abiyon Yeba.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but then again, the same people that are encouraging the young people to go out and be useful on the farms and everything, these are the same people that pay them to do this politics thing, right? Because recently a list came out, and on that list there was so many young people, and you could see that they think that playing politics is going on social media and being social media trolls against whoever is speaking up against your principle. So how do you think that that culture can be broken? Or should the government give more incentive to the farmers or to the people who employ, who would go out and employ these young people? Or should this trend be stopped completely? This trend of paying young people to be thugs or to go and attack anybody who has a different ideology than yours. What do you say? And before you say that, after you say that, we'll talk about the tomato farm that I saw you at and what you were doing at the tomato farm. Please talk to me about how to break that culture of waiting on politicians.
Yes. First off, we are having do I call it politics of representation. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
will not be in the House of Assembly. You have to have someone to represent you. Everyone will not be local government chairman. Somebody has to be there to sit in that office. Everyone will not be governor. Someone has to be in the office of the governor to make policies and pronouncement or bring in economy that will assist the people of the state. Now, when you have these politics of people representing others with your mandate, it is supposed to be such that before certain things, policies are done, they ought to come back to you to seek your own opinion. There ought to
Yeah.
be interface between the elect and the political office holders. But what
Mm-hmm.
we've been having is a disconnect between the political office holders and the people at the grassroots. And so you will have them come back home to want to come and do a project which is not really life touching. Someone, for
Yeah.
example, a community might be looking for a health center, and then
Yes.
you come back home, you want to come and build a cottage hospital. I mean, a cottage industry. That might
Yeah.
not be what the community needs. The community might be in need of water. You come back home, you want to come and do a site like a shoe factory. That is not what
Yeah.
the community needs. And so you can now see between the people who are in power and the people
Mm.
who are at the grassroots, there is a disconnect. And so you
Yes.
continue to have this issue of people trying to, queue up to be in government, and the government, and we have so much made our political elite who ought to be our servant to be seen as our leaders, which
Mhm.
is wrong. The reverse ought to be the case.
Yes.
The political office holders ought to be the servant, while we, the people that give them the mandate, ought to be the masters. But here, the reverse is the case. The reverse is the case. I used to admire a governor in Niger State, Governor Babangida Aliyu, the ex-governor Babangida Aliyu. He calls
Yeah.
himself the chief laborer, the chief servant of Niger
Mm-hmm.
State. But aside from that state, every other governor calls himself executive governor, the executive. And so you don't want to talk to executive governor because they are executive.
Oh dear. We're having network issues. We're having network issues.
Chairman called themselves executive chairman. They are
Yeah.
executive.
Yes.
You rather be in the state headquarters
Yes.
the chief of it all.
Yeah.
If we have a process where the people actually have a role to play,
Mm-hmm.
actually the vote count. If the vote count, and then people decide who they want, like you have in America,
Mm-hmm.
for example, you could see that the people have to decide who they want,
Mm-hmm.
not the other way around, where you are being imposed. Somebody is being imposed upon the masses because of the political system that we have. We have a failed political structure,
Mm-hmm.
a failed political system, and we have a weak constitution that gave birth to a failed political system. That is why we keep on having our political office holders becoming the leaders as against being the servant. So you
Okay.
have this issue of Obion Yeba because of this kind of syndrome.
Okay. All right. So let me take you back. Um, we were talking about how to break that. So you said that a failed political system birthed by a poor constitution leads to leaders thinking, leads to servant leaders, people who should be
Mm.
servant leaders, feeling that they are like the demigods in their constitution. And but something you said about the community needs, right? How do we go
Yeah.
about determining and listing what a community needs so that if somebody wants to come in from the outside and service that community, they are able to determine exactly what will be right for it? Is it organizations like yours that should list that? Who would, we approach to find that out?
Well,
Oh dear. We're having serious network issues, Mr.
government
Franklin.
that ought to have a stakeholders meeting, a town hall meeting, a constituency briefing. In the case of the House of Assembly members, the House of Reps, the senators, there ought to be an interface between the elect and the electorate. You need to come back
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm. We need to come back to.
have a town hall meeting, a constituency briefing, so that you. So if there is no interface between the political office holders and the electorate, you have those issues. Now, if an NGO is coming into a community and you need the help of an NGO like CLO, who could assist you because we
Mm-hmm.
are on ground. Because
Yes.
we have taught virtually all the communities in the state, and we know which community lacks what and which community
Yeah.
needs what. So if you meet
Yeah.
us and being an NGO, you want to come and assistance, we could actually be of help. But if
Yeah.
the government want to put up a project, it is the government reps that ought to go and have a constituency interface with the constituencies to be able to know what they need.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Talk to me about this farm you are on. What are you doing here, and what is the project that is going on here?
Well, I think the state governor is trying to bring in to divert our focus from petrodollar economy to
Mm-hmm.
agro-based economy, and so
Mm-hmm.
he is encouraging more of farming and agriculture in the state, and so the government decided to acquire a land in Uruan local government area to
Mm-hmm.
plant tomato, and so I decided to go there because I like seeing such ventures that will encourage and also create employment. So when I
Mm-hmm.
heard about the governor talking about it during his budget, that in the next few weeks that the tomato farm will be, will quick start, and then I had to go around to check it, and then I saw that actually it was it wasn't a political promise, but it was real, and that for now as we speak, I think the farm had employed. The last time I went there, I met with the person who's in charge of the farm, whose agency is handling it. I think the SSA to the governor on due process in Ibom, and then he took me around and he showed me that apart from tomato, that they're also planting onions. And don't forget that the government also has such a similar farm known as the greenhouse along the airport road in Oron Road, where they grow tomato, cucumber, and the rest of it. And they have a similar farm, I think somewhere in Okobo and across the state. So for me, such project can actually, if well harnessed, can create employment, and it will change the economy of the state. So I had to go there to see things myself, and also tell people to know that actually the government is venturing into tomato planting in Oran.
All right, so we always hear things like this. Last time we heard about the coconut farm, we heard about Mexican cows, we heard about sugarcane farms. What is it that these things start out so good, that these lofty ideas start out so good, and then somewhere in the middle they fail, they get abandoned and neglected, so much so that most of the the purpose is defeated. Mr. Franklin, we have lost you. The purpose is defeated, and very few people get employed, or if any. My question is, what happens? Is it a question of maintenance culture? Is it a question of no funds to keep it going? Projects like this should be able to rise to a level where they are able to like fund themselves. The proceeds from it would be recycled into the project to fund it. Okay, so I would like to know what is happening such that we start out so well, but then we drop the ball and are unable to see to a reasonable conclusion. I lost Mr. Franklin. I'm sending him another link, so that we can continue. This was supposed to be like just touching on the surface because the big discussion would be next week. But as happens when we're onto something good, it just keeps going. So hopefully we'll be able to get Mr. Franklin back, because it seems to me like there is a management problem, a management issue or funding issue. When Mr. Franklin comes back, I want to talk about COVID-19 and how Akwa Ibom has been faring with COVID-19. Has the healthcare system taken a hit that it cannot recover from? Um, how are the numbers there? Are people dying in Akwa Ibom, or have people been able to, with whatever rudimentary measures they have they been able to protect themselves? Mr. Franklin, are you back with me? Hello? Have people been able to protect themselves? In recent times, we heard that the World Trade Organization has said that they are not sending vaccinations to Nigeria because the cold chain technology has not been perfected, and there's no point sending in vaccines for them to come and be denatured in the heat and wasted when so many people around the world are looking. Yes, we're back on. Okay, welcome back, Mr. Francis. So, so my question before you were,
Thank you so much. The
yeah,
network
well,
is really.
it's terrible. My question was, how come we always start on these lofty projects and then somewhere in the middle, they just die off? What is going on that causes it to just come to nothing?
Well, I will answer you in two perspectives. The
Mm-hmm.
first perspective is that the leadership, um, call it the leadership that we have,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes may not have the political will to carry out the project to its logical conclusion. You have a project,
Mm-hmm.
and then when the government is out without the project completed, another government comes on board and abandon the project, and then pick up another project, because the government want to be seen that this is my project. And the second issue, or the second perspective, is that the leaders that we've been producing in Akwa Ibom State, we have been unfortunate to have leaders who always put a name to their project. For example, you have a project that is being initiated by a government with taxpayers' money. That project must carry a name of the governor that brought the project, to stream. And so when the governor is not there, when the governor's tenure is over, next government will come and abandon that project and then initiate
That's a shame. That's a real shame because the aim of any government should be to cater for the people.
so
And whatever they do, mhm. Go ahead,
are you
please.
following? Yeah, I say what is for me, I don't see any
Need to attach a name to a project. But to me, that is irrelevant. Whatever you want to call it is irrelevant. It is immature to say because this bears somebody's name, you're not going to work on it, not going to maintain it. Because, hello, hello, because those are low-hanging fruits that, first of all, should be utilized to the benefit of the people. Now, when you utilize that, get it to a reasonable conclusion,
yeah,
employ
can you hear me?
people. Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so I was just simply saying that the leadership or the leaders that we have had
Mm-hmm.
from 1999 till today are leaders who normally put their names on each of their projects. And so when they are not there, when the tenure of that leader is over, the next leader comes on board and then abandon the project and then go and initiate his own project. Because the leaders that are in authority always call the project after their tenure.
Okay.
I would have thought that the best thing should be when a government initiates a project,
They
another government
complete
comes
it.
on board and continue it because
Yes,
government is a continuum. But
yes.
here, but here what we have is when the next government comes on board,
Mm-hmm.
they you will now see if there is a fuse between the governor and his predecessor. He abandons that project by his predecessors and then go and put up his own project. So
And
you
the
now
people,
have the money that we have spent being wasted in such a project that has been abandoned. That is why you have liters of projects that have been abandoned in the state.
yes, yes. And it's a shame because the projects that are, that could have been seen to a reasonable conclusion would have helped employ a ton of people in the state. Those will be low-hanging fruits. Those will be the first things to
Yes.
use to, to service the people as much as possible. There was a long feud between the current governor and the past governor. Has that been laid to rest?
Well, in as much as I'm not a politician, I'm not also in government. I wouldn't know whether the disagreement between the former governor Godswill Akpabio and Governor Emmanuel has been laid to rest. I cannot really speak. I'm not also in their circle to know. What we only do is, as journalists, we only read body language. We read body language, and then
Tell
we
me the body language you have
one plus
observed.
one.
Yeah,
Um, yes. So if so, going by body language,
yeah.
you will. I will say that the fuse because during the NSAS protest,
Mm-hmm.
the former governor, who is now the minister of Niger Delta
Mm-hmm.
Affairs, came to the state to have a town hall meeting,
Okay.
and he did not meet with the governor to also have an interface with the governor. And meanwhile, we are told that he made attempt to see the governor, that he wrote to the governor seeking an audience, and that was from one end. And this other end, we are hearing that it was that they did not give any letter to the governor to seek audience. So we keep hearing, to and fro that there is that disagreement between the former governor Godswill Akpabio and his successor. But this is not a good politics in the state because it denies us opportunity of having development in the state.
Yes. Which is a crying shame. All right. So on employment, okay. Unemployment numbers in the state, I will say it's poor because of the feedback I have been getting from a lot of people on ground. Okay. Food security. Is there food to eat? I mean, this is an agrarian economy, agrarian community. There's farms everywhere. Why are people hungry?
Well, can you hear me? If I'm
Yes,
to
I
answer
can hear.
that question, if I'm to answer that question, I will tell you that Nigeria has been rated as the capital poverty, the capital of poverty in the world, not just Akwa Ibom. So Nigeria is rated as the poverty capital of the world, despite the fact that we have a lot of resources, we have a lot of mineral reserve. Back to Akwa Ibom State, I think maybe because of the COVID-19
Yeah.
lockdown, because the economy of each of the states tied to the other states. So the lockdown that we had, the COVID-19 issues also affected, also could be responsible to why we don't have food in the state, because and even the farmer header clashes that we've been having in the north and in the northeast is also not helping matters at all. So for me, that could be the reason why we might be having the issue of food scarcity in the state, because the economy of Akwa Ibom State is not dependent on the state alone. It also ties to other economy of the world and of the state and of other states. And so when you have crisis in the northeast, crisis in the middle belt, crisis in the southwest and in the south south, it could affect economy of a particular state, because we are operating our economies interwoves among
Okay.
the other economy of the states.
Okay. So we have unemployment. We have no food, hunger, and food insecurity, and we also have clashes, border clashes in the state. So talk to me about the recent border clash in the state where a lot of people lost their lives, and what your community, what your organization was able to do to fix that situation.
Well, what we are doing, we are only an NGO. We can only advise the government when we
Mm-hmm.
hear like what happened in Mbo,
Mm-hmm.
in Mbo local government area, that is a community known as Ukokpan.
Yes. Here we go again with the network issue. Yes. Okay, it seems like there was a call for ceasefire because the CLO. Oh dear. Okay, so I look forward to next Saturday because this Saturday was supposed to be like an intro, a segue into deeper discussion next Saturday on the issues going on in Akwa Ibom. So we have talked about unemployment, we have talked about poverty imposed by COVID. I mean, there was poverty pre-COVID, and COVID made it worse because it impacted on the economy. We have talked about unemployment, okay? We have talked about, we wanted to talk about the state of hospitals, the state of the medical care in Akwa Ibom State. We'll talk about that next Saturday when um, hopefully we have less network issues. And education. Has anybody seen pictures of schools in Akwa Ibom? I mean, COVID has really laid things, on ground. The COVID has really decimated the economies of communities. But where the infrastructure of a school is, coming apart, no money to pay teachers, enrollment going down, considering that people have to stay home, students have to stay home and work online. Um, I was interested in knowing how the state is able to handle that situation. Is there are people getting tested? Are test kits available? Test tents, test units, the COVID units, going around testing people to make sure that incidents of infections have been identified in the communities and people who are infected isolated from the main population and treated and returned home. Is the state keeping tally of how many people are infected and how many people are able to be cured, right? Does the state have like medications and things to help manage the COVID situation? These are all the things I would like to discuss with the chairman of Civil Liberties Organization, because they are on ground there, okay? So the roads, the social amenities that would have been provided for the people is a problem because COVID has decimated the economy. So what now? Now we all just going to sit back and say, okay, we don't know what to do from here on. What steps is the governor taking to make sure that all is well with his people? These are things I would really be interested in finding out. So we're going to take this time off, go fix our network issues, and come back with you next Saturday. Be sure to keep a date, okay? Because I want to hear from all of you. We only hear surface things. We only read about things. We don't know what is going on in the grassroots. We thank God for organizations like the Civil Liberties Organization, because they are there, they interact with the people, they go to different communities and they see what's up. But if you don't speak out, get yourself a little bit of data, join this program, speak out, let us hear what is going on. Send me a message on Messenger. Let me know what is happening in your community, okay? Because we in the diaspora, if we're in a position to help, we have to know the needs of the community as spoken up by you. You are in the best position to tell us what your community needs, okay? For example, in Ikorakbat, in Ukarafa, where I come from, there's need for schools, infrastructure for schools. The schools are falling apart, okay? There's need for clean water for schools, for at least one functional healthcare center. I want to spearhead the erection, the putting up of a functional healthcare center to erect a health clinic that will serve the community, and especially in these times of COVID, okay? From there, we can share out food. From there, we can identify further needs, of the community, all right? So please keep in touch. Don't say, oh, what difference is it going to make? Your voice is important. Okay, it will carry weight. Just speak out. Just share what you know. Tell us what you need in your community. Okay, so I have to call it a day right now at this point. I will be back with you next Saturday. Okay, also on this program next week, I'm looking forward to talk to the recent general that was retired, Burutai, and I want to hear a discussion between him and Reno Omokari. That is some conversation I really look forward to listening to, because we want to hear government talk about insecurity in Nigeria and the steps they took. And I would like to hear Reno as an ordinary citizen. I want to hear him speak on the security situation in Nigeria. It seems everybody knows what the problem is, but everybody's afraid to grab the bull by the horns. Let us see what the new security chiefs have in the offer, in the offering for us, okay? So I look forward to speaking with them next week. Now there is a letter making the rounds on the internet, a letter that is that was purportedly written by Obasanjo, by General Obasanjo, and this letter is very damning in that it's insightful. Some people say it could ignite a civil war in Nigeria, but we are not certain if this letter actually came from Obasanjo himself. We are trying to verify where this letter came from, and we'll talk about this letter next week with Ata Ikide. And I would also like the General Botai to comment on this letter, okay? On the surface, it describes a real situation of what is going on in Nigeria. It also describes the security situation of what happened in the Central African Republic, in the Chad area, and how the herdsmen decimated the area, okay? And how were they able to contain that security situation up there? Is there anything, any system we could borrow to help us with our own security issues in Nigeria? Okay, and finally, February is going to be hot. Finally, I have been able to reach Dr. Stella Emmanuel. I would like to talk to her and get her own viewpoint on the vaccination in today's COVID situation, to take or not to take. Most of us have made up our minds anyway, but are there other avenues we could utilize to contain COVID. There is ivermectin and other medications that have been seen to work good in people who have contracted the disease, and in 2 days their symptoms were cleared and they were able to recover nicely. With ivermectin. So this might be an alternative for those countries who do not have a proper cold chain system, for those countries who are not able to store the vaccines. They might use the medications as alternatives to containing COVID. Okay, so keep a date next Saturday because it's going to be hot on this program. For right now, I would like to say good night, God bless, and see you next week. Take care of yourself and of each other. Good night. Oh, I'm sorry about Mr.